Hey everyone, Reflected here, and today I'd like to share some interesting details about flying the P-51 Mustang in combat. My main source of information for my campaigns is autobiographies, memoirs of pilots who lived through the events that I'm trying to replicate in the virtual world. I've read hundreds of these, and each shares a few little details about how they operated in combat, the way they flew their aircraft, and so on. Each offers a few tiny pieces of the puzzle, and if you read enough memoirs, you'll have a pretty good idea of the big picture. I've just read the book To Fly and Fight, the autobiography of the P-51 Triple Ace Bud Anderson with 16 1/4 aerial victories. He flew P-51s with the 363rd Fighter Squadron, and he was the best friend of Chuck Yeager. In his book, he went into great details about flying the P-51 in combat, and I'd like to share some of these with you. Fuel management. In my P-51 tutorial, check it out if you haven't seen it, I point out that the pilot's manual says you need to start the engine and take off on the left wing tank because that's where the carburetor vapor return is fed back, so you need to make space for that return fuel. The manual also says that even if you carry drop tanks, you need to switch to your fuselage tank first after takeoff. See, when it's full, the aircraft is extremely tail heavy and unstable. It flies like a B-17. Even when it's half full, aerobatics need to be performed with caution. Therefore, it's recommended that you use it until you have around 25 gallons of fuel left in it. That's when the center of gravity is optimal. And then you switch to your external tanks. After reading the book, I found out that it's all true, but they only did this on short missions like hops over France. But when they escorted bombers deep into Germany, they needed every drop of fuel, so they kept the fuselage tank full and used the drop tanks first. If they had used the fuselage tank and then the drop tanks, and then they were attacked by the Luftwaffe and had to drop the external tanks, they wouldn't have enough fuel to fight it out and return to England. The second piece of information solved a great mystery about landings. I always wondered if they did 3-point landings or wheel landings back then. Anderson clarified this as well. The textbook called for 3-point landings. That's what they were trained for and expected to do. But these airfields could get quite busy with 36 or 48 planes returning from a mission, so it was more practical to do wheel landings, touching down on the two main wheels, keeping the tail up, because this gave them better forward visibility for a longer time, allowing them to see any obstacles or traffic ahead. So you better start practicing wheel landings in DCS. He also confirmed what I already knew, that takeoffs were done in complete radio silence. No point in tipping off the Germans that they were coming, unless of course there was some sort of emergency and the radio silence had to be broken. He also talks about D-Day, how they took off on the first mission of the day just after midnight, and how the night was absolutely and completely pitch black and they couldn't see a thing. A lot of people complained about the opening mission of the Debden Eagles campaign, but here's yet another confirmation that it's exactly what it was like. Instead of blaming the mission, people should appreciate what these young men went through to liberate Europe from a tyrant. Alright, I hope you found this interesting and managed to learn something new. If you haven't read To Fly and Fight, I highly recommend you do so. It's a great book. Don't forget to subscribe and keep an eye on the channel because I have a little surprise for the P-51 Mustang fans out there, so stay tuned. See ya!